What's up? What's happening? Welcome here to Lacrosse Now. I am Travis Selgers. Actual lacrosse we have to talk about this week. It's the off season, but not really. We got some international lacrosse to talk about, as well as some fall ball. I'll talk on that in a sec. Also, two great guests once again. We got Reid Bowering, who's getting ready for an NLL season, his second year with the Vancouver Warriors. We'll talk about what he learned in his first year and a little bit about if he misses the field game at all, the former Drexel Dragon. We'll also talk with Lax Sports Network co-founder Ken Claussen. Obviously, a big time of year for the Headstrong Foundation, how you can get involved once again with Lax Sports Madness, what their goal is for this year. We talk about what all the money raised goes toward for the Headstrong Foundation. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. But we're going to start today with a couple of thoughts on two different lacrosse events that happened over the weekend. I'll start with something that I had a chance to call here on LSN all weekend long. It was the World Lacrosse Super Sixes event in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, the first ever Super Sixes event hosted by Lacrosse Canada. And it was a terrific event. The Haudenosaunee, Canada, and Team England, each with a women's team taking part in this Sixes event, and it was incredibly entertaining. Things started out on Friday kind of as we expected. Canada took care of business against both their opponents, and so it set up Saturday where you kind of figured what was going to happen. We knew what was going to happen, and that was not the case. Haudenosaunee goes in there and beats Canada in sixes, 9-8, a dramatic finish. One of the best wins you probably could say in the Haudenosaunee women's lacrosse history, knocking off Canada in this international event. And it surprised a lot of people, including myself. Team Haudenosaunee also then beat England, and so they find themselves in the gold medal game opposite Canada. Now, Canada ultimately won the gold medal in this three-team round-robin event, and they would get a chance to hoist the trophy, per se, in this World Lacrosse Sixes event. But Team Haudenosaunee really stood out to me as maybe the big winners in this. And you talk about some of the players that we saw stand out for this squad. Avery Doran, who's still currently in high school in Connecticut, a Brown commit, just a junior in high school, scored the game-winning goal against Canada as time expired. If you haven't seen at least the end of this game or the whole game, you can go watch it, Lax Sports Network YouTube page. I certainly recommend it because it was a terrific finish. Avery Doran, the hero. She was, as a high school junior, sharing the field with former All-Americans like Erica Evans, who, of course, started Canisius before transferring to Maryland, Megan Whittle, who was a Terps star, and Avery Doran certainly looked the part. So keep an eye on that name moving forward, especially for Team Haudenosaunee and also in the college game, because she certainly looked the part, sharing the field with some terrific players throughout the weekend. And the Haudenosaunee goalie, Paige Crandall, she was unbelievable, especially in the upset win over Canada. 20-plus saves, a couple of different times throughout that event in a short game. I mean, only 8-minute quarters and sixes, and stopping 20-plus shots says a lot about how good she was. She currently is the goalie at Lemoyne, and so keep an eye on that name as well. But a win that Haudenosaunee has to feel so good about, because remember, a lot was made in heading into the World Games about getting the Haudenosaunee into that event. However, it was the men's Haudenosaunee team that was the big push, because obviously they have been competitive on the world stage for a while now, with the likes of the Thompson brothers competing against Canada and the United States in world championship events. But the women's program hasn't quite been as proven in terms of having success on the international stage. So for them to knock off Canada in this event, I think says a lot about where they are as a program, and it's continuing to elevate their level of play. That's a huge win. Obviously for the Haudenosaunee, but I think also for the international community here, because it means you've got another women's program along with the likes of Canada, United States, England that can compete. Because if they can compete even a couple of times out of 10, it makes for a better product moving forward, in the hopes that this sport can be into the Olympic Games sometime in the near future, hopefully in 2028 in LA. Canada obviously winning gold, as most expected them to in hosting this tournament. A couple of players that stood out to me. Erica Evans scored 6 goals in the gold medal game against the Haudenosaunee. she was terrific on both ends of the field. I mean, you think about players that you want to have in this version of the sport where you really have to be able to play both ways. You got to be able to play some defense and also play offense because it's such a fast-moving game. It's hard to sub off on the fly all the time if you want to keep the game moving and you want to be successful. And Erica Evans, while on top of scoring 6 goals in a game like she did, and she ended up leading Canada in goals throughout the event, she also made some incredible defensive plays. I mean, whether it was jumping passing lanes to intercept passes, just causing turnovers with checks, she was terrific. And so a player like Erica Evans, I think, certainly thrives in this Sixes event. We saw that again this weekend. They also had some younger players. They got an opportunity with Team Canada in this event. Lee Wallace really stood out to me, currently at UAlbany, just finished off playing at Oregon. She's transferred for 1 extra year with the Great Danes. Somebody to keep an eye on in the college game. She had 14 goals over the course of the 5 games. And Cameron Halsall, who's got an extra year of eligibility at Stony Brook this year, the goalie, she, especially on Friday night, was like lights out. So a great performance from her. And Annabelle Child also impressed me, currently a sophomore at Harvard, another Ivy Leaguer who had a nice weekend in this Sixes event. So Canada wins. Haudenosaunee, probably the story of the whole weekend with that dramatic win over Canada, but Canada's victorious. If you want to watch any of those Sixes games on replay, you can at LaxSportsNetwork.com, also on the Lax Sports Network YouTube page. So make sure you check those out if you haven't. An exciting version of the sport. It was the first time I had a chance to call games in Sixes, and I loved it, especially when we had some of the dramatic finishes involving Haudenosaunee and Canada and also England and Team Haudenosaunee. Some of those dramatic ending of games. I mean, you can have 2 goals in 30 seconds, and it dramatically shifts the outcome of a game. We saw it against England, between England and the Haudenosaunee on Sunday morning. I mean, England's down 1, scores quickly, forces a turnover, scores again, and all of a sudden they go from down 1 to up 1 with 30 seconds left, and the game's over. So really exciting version of the sport. Had a lot of fun having a chance to do those games here on LSN this weekend. Before we get to the interviews, also some thoughts on fall ball. The one big event this past weekend that I wanted to mention, Maryland and Cornell rematch the national championship from a year ago on the men's side, taking place at Springfield High School outside Philadelphia, kind of a neutral site game with the former high school Kyle Long, who's now at Maryland, so an opportunity for him to go home and play in front of his hometown friends and family. The only thing I want to say about this, because I didn't have a chance to go because I was busy calling these games, but a 13-5 win by Maryland. Terps led 7-5 at the half when it was primarily the first teamers out there, and before subbing patterns essentially got kind of thrown out of whack as everybody's trying to get players to play in the second half. I was surprised by the Terps winning in the fashion they did, just because of the number of players they lost on offense from last year. I mean, they lose their top 5 scorers from a year ago, if you include now that Eric Maliver's out for the year with an injury that we found out just a couple of weeks ago. So top 5 guys in points from a year ago, not there for Maryland offensively, and they still put up 13 goals against a very good Cornell team, a Cornell team that's got a bunch back from the team that made the run to the national championship a year ago. So this surprised me a bit, and I think we're going to learn even more about what Maryland has as the defending national champions this weekend when they take on Team USA at the USA Lacrosse Fall Classic down in Sparks, Maryland. So I went into this season going, okay, I'm going into this season thinking I still need to see a lot from Maryland. We know what they're going to have defensively. They've got a lot back on that end, but they got to be able to score in order to win games. And it was such a dominant offense a year ago. Had a lot of questions going in, and I still have questions, obviously, moving into the spring, but maybe less questions than I would have before with this result. And then we'll see what happens here at the USA Lacrosse Fall Classic. But I would go to figure that this Maryland team, as you might expect, they're going to be back in contention for championship weekend and likely in contention for a national championship again, because under head coach John Tillman, that is just what this team does. So Maryland seems to be back. I think Cornell's going to be very, very good again in a very talented Ivy League again. But defending champs, they're still very good despite all that they lost with what we saw this past weekend. So a couple of thoughts on a couple events from this past weekend. Now let's get to some interviews. We look ahead to the NLL season. Had a chance to catch up with Reid Bowering, who's getting ready for his second year with the Vancouver Warriors.
This segment of Lacrosse Now is brought to you by Watch Dingo.
So we are now joined by Vancouver Warriors player Reid Bowering, and he's joining us. We're taping this on Monday, which is Canadian Thanksgiving. So Reid, happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody north of the border.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, what do you have? I'm down here in the United States. Like, I know what our Thanksgiving's like. What foods? What are you doing on Canadian Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's like turkey, stuffing, ham. I mean, every family's probably got a little bit different, and I would say most families celebrate twice a weekend because I don't know, everyone's got either their Friendsgiving or two families, boyfriend, girlfriend, something's going on. So it's nice. You're pretty much stuffed the whole weekend. Where it's different, I think, than the States is it really is just like a 3-day thing versus a week.
Yeah, no,
where you have to take the whole week off. Yeah,
yeah. So
it's
just
nice.
It's just a long extended weekend. It's not like we're going to start this thing celebrating on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite part? Favorite food?
I gotta say the turkey and stuffing, but then pitting that all into a sandwich, into a nice bun. So yeah.
Some things travel over international lines. It's the after. Sometimes it's the after Thanksgiving turkey sandwich that's the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's talk a little lacrosse. Reid, you're coming off a really great rookie season last year, one of the top loose ball guys in the entire league as your first year. What did you learn in your first year in the NLL?
I learned a lot. I mean, there's so many good leaders on my team who, from the start of training camp, were helping me out and teaching me all these things. And obviously, just from watching the film, like I don't think I'd ever paid so close attention to all the details of my box game. In field, we're practicing all year round for, I guess, from September till whenever you finish. It could be May. But for box back home, my whole life, we'd only done it for like a couple months in the summer. So to have like a 6-month season, like I was able to see stuff I needed to work on and actually work on it at every practice for 6 months and on my own time. So I learned a lot from players. I learned a lot from film, and just playing against some of the best players in the world. You have to rise to that level. And so I think I got better that way too.
That's actually something that I don't know if I've ever heard people talk about, because you're right. Like for you guys in the field game, like you played 5 years of college lacrosse, where like that's probably when players, even great high school players, first really dive into a lot of film study and stuff. But something you haven't done in the indoor game, and you kind of do you feel like you're reaching a higher potential indoors now that you're doing that?
For sure, yeah, and just how much time I can dedicate to that now, like way more time than I did just in the summers, like when I wasn't in college or growing up. So yeah, definitely. I think for sure.
I will say, so one of the things for like Canadian players when they first get in the NLL that I feel like sometimes can be comforting, that's different from other professional sports, is like you've competed against a lot of these guys in summer box throughout the years before you even step foot on an NLL floor. Like, how different is the transition from playing summer box even at the men's level to then playing indoors in the NLL?
Yeah, so I guess with COVID, it kind of messed things a little bit up. So because usually I would play a summer lacrosse before the NLL, but with COVID, I missed that and went straight into the NLL. But then I played some summer lacrosse this year, and it's different. Just there's little things, like the floor is obviously different. So like, and the coaches who coach both. My coach Pat Coyle coaches both in Colorado and for my hometown, and like just the little things that you have to adjust as a coach. It's interesting, and because players can't turn as fast on the floor, the concrete floor versus the turf. So it's just little things like that. But it's both competitive, and yeah, they're both really tough.
For you having a chance to play your first year for essentially your hometown team. What was that like?
That was fantastic. I mean, it was also nice to not have to travel half the time, but also just having my friends and family be at the home games was really cool to see them after and see them and play in a place where I mean, I didn't go to that many NHL games for the Canucks, but they're the talk of the town, and you always hear about it. And you drive past the big arena, so it was really cool to be playing inside that arena.
For year 2 here, you guys have some changes out there in Vancouver. Mainly, you've got a new head coach in Troy Cordingley stepping in. What has that transition been like here in the offseason as you get ready for training camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think things are going to be super intense. I've heard that training camp is going to be grueling, so I'm excited for that. But I think the guys are all pretty pumped. Troy's obviously got a lot of experience and knows how to win, from what I've heard, and so I'm excited to go to battle with them.
One of the other exciting new pieces, you bring in Sean Evans, who is just, a legendary guy in the NLL. He joins your roster. When you realize that he's coming in, what do you think about?
I just think that's going to add some great experience. And obviously, I feel like he's a guy that you just know he's going to score you a goal when you need a goal. And that's just a great feeling as a defender, too. When you're on offense, you got a great goal and a great defense, you play with more confidence, and it's vice versa. So I think me on the DN is going to feel even more comfortable, just and more confident in our team, having him there.
You guys obviously struggled, especially down the stretch this past year. I wonder, what kind of things do you take out of, especially those struggles, and just how hard it is to win consistently in the NLL as you look ahead to your year 2?
Yeah, I think, they were tough 1-goal games. So a player like Sean Evans, I think, helps in that situation. I also think, for me, we had a decent amount of rookies and some guys who never played before or played together. So having that group now moving forward, I think we have that team experience and know what happens in those games as our team. So I think we'll be a little bit better this year in that sense, in those 1-goal games, just being a little more calm, cool, and collective. And I think we'll be good.
Well, I think all the talk, at least, I would watch the league and you think going in, the East has probably a couple of the top teams, and then all of a sudden Colorado comes out and, having had the up and downs they had in the regular season, they end up winning a championship. So it really does show, you get it clicking at the right time with the right group, and anything can happen.
For sure. There's so much talent in every team. That was something that I really noticed in the NLL. It's just, you can't take a night off because every single player is a star. So if you make a mistake or take them lightly, they're gonna make you pay for it. So
So you mentioned not having really a chance to play that summer box season before you hit the floor in the NLL. That first year in the NLL, who was the player or couple of players that you're like, man, I'm so pumped I get to compete against that guy?
Yeah, there's a bunch, but playing against some guys from my hometown like Westberg and Chandler Rogers is really cool. And our first game was against San Diego, so stepping on the floor of Dane Dobie was pretty cool. And I'm trying not to get burned by him. That's fun.
Hey, you held up quite nicely in your rookie season. It was a good one.
You.
Do you miss playing the field game?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. They're so different, and so especially because I played attack, so I miss scoring some more goals for sure. But hopefully get out on the field pretty soon here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You go from, because for some players, indoor, outdoor, you're playing the same position, you're still essentially some of the same goals. But for you, you go from one end of the field to the other end of the floor. It's a big transition.
Yeah, for sure. No, I miss my attack days, and hopefully next year we'll be back out on the field playing with those guys.
You did have a chance to hit the field in the World Games with Canada in sixes. What did you? First off, what was it like to win a gold medal with that group of guys? The talent level just felt like it was off the charts. What was that moment like?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Just every player, someone who you're just in awe of every shift. They're doing something incredible and so smart lacrosse IQ wise. So I was very happy and feel very privileged to be a part of that group. And of course, winning gold is awesome. And we didn't expect anything less. So it was fun to go war with that group.
Yeah, and sixes, what stood out? Because I can't imagine you've played a ton of it up to this point. What stood out about that experience?
Just how exhausting it was, really. In Alabama, in the heat, in the midday, was honestly probably the hardest. I don't know, it was just like the hardest on your body that I've ever played in those conditions. So that was pretty insane.
As we all like try to figure out sixes, because I think in some ways it's really exciting because of obviously the speed, but also it's a clean slate. Like no one has implemented a strategy that people go, oh, that's how you're supposed to play it, because no one's really played it that often at a high competitive level where the stakes are the highest. You had a chance to do it. What are some of the strategies and stuff that you guys use, whether you're stealing some stuff from the field game or the box game, that you felt like, hey, this could be like the future of how people try to attack this sport?
Yeah, well, I feel like we had, well, this is straight from Coach Brody Merrill, but pretty much we had some insane athletes on this team. So let's use our skill set and let's put some pressure on teams and try to overpower them, especially like the press. You know, people are already going to be exhausted. So let's like put some pressure on while they're tired, and hopefully they make even more mistakes. And then we just have the ball way more of the time. So that was a big strategy.
Yeah, because I just did a weekend's worth of sixes on the women's side, and like watching whether it was Canada for the women kind of at times press out. It's almost like a basketball man-to-man defense where you're going to pressure, or then you see other teams where it's like, all right, you know what, we're going to dare you to shoot from the outside, trust our goalie, and pack in a zone. Like, how do you kind of see maybe the mix of defenses working as this sport continues to evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I think the mix of defenses is great. And even in normal field lacrosse, mixing up your defenses is smart, because then you don't let the offense get comfortable, and then they really have to think about what they're going to do. And especially in sixes, because it's so fast, those players got to think on the fly. And if you're switching up your defense, I mean, they got to be really smart. But you could also get burned because it just takes beating one person. There's so much space in the big net. So it's tough. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you're right. It's exhausting to watch. Like, it's end to end, never stop, like run the entire time that clock is on.
Yeah, you just pray no one gets hurt, because then you're really in trouble.
Yeah, just small rosters. Yeah. Before we let you go, you guys in Vancouver, you're adding another CAA player here, not for this NLL season, but in a couple. In Owen Grant, a top draft pick this past year. Do you have a relationship with Owen from the past and from battling with him? What have you said, or what would you say to him?
Yeah, I never talked to him beforehand, just aside from playing against him. And obviously he's a great player, but once he got drafted, I shot him a text and on Instagram, and I'm happy that we picked him up, because he's obviously a great competitor, great player, another lefty D guy. So I'm happy to have him on our side. And he's obviously a big bully on the field, which I, didn't love playing against, but super happy to have him on my team moving forward.
Yeah, you guys are building up quite the back end there with the two of you young guns there in Vancouver. When do you start training camp here coming up?
October 28th, so in a few weeks.
So you're all ready in shape, good to go?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Yeah, our coach Troy's got us doing our weekly 5K runs, so they've been whipping me into shape.
Well, Reid, enjoy the last couple of weeks before the NLL season gets underway. Can't wait to see you back on the floor with Vancouver. Thanks so much for the time, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. Nice talking with you.
Sir, we are now joined by Ken Claussen, co-founder of Lax Madness. Time to grow some mustaches again in honor of the Headstrong Foundation. Ken, thanks so much for joining us once again this year.
Yeah, Travis, thanks for having me. Another year at it, growing mustaches. We're certainly happy to be back and doing this once again.
So I was doing some research. Over $600,000 you guys raised last year through Lax Madness. Is that right?
Over $600,000 the lacrosse community raised for Headstrong. It was in a year where we weren't sure what to expect with COVID and everything going on. The community just rallied behind the cause. We had unprecedented growth, pun intended, and it was incredible. It was awesome.
Every year that you come back and you start marketing again, what is it that just amazes you every year about how teams come together and players come together to fundraise for such a meaningful cause?
Yeah, I think like every year we're just wondering how are we going to surpass what we raised the previous year, and we're wondering how we're going to do that. And the lacrosse community steps it up, and continues to have an outpouring of support for Headstrong. I think a credit to Headstrong for what they do and the impact they're making. You see the people that they're helping. You're helping real people, and I think that resonates. Our campaign hero right now, Keith Zughauer, a sophomore at Lindenwood, a lacrosse player there who we're supporting. And Nick's house is at full occupancy, and they have been since their inception. And so I just think that, the more teams that come to that Philly area and have a chance to stop by Nick's house, just really get to see what it is we're doing this for and why it makes such an impact. And Headstrong right now is at an unprecedented demand. They have historic demand for their needs, which is just credit to what they're doing, but a state of the times too. And so I think we're seeing cancer, as always, affect everyone, every different age, all different walks of life, and the demand is at an all-time high. And I think that also goes to show that the community is continuing to support it and show it, and it's been really cool to see.
You mentioned Nick's house, and obviously what Headstrong has created outside of Philadelphia to be able to allow people to come and their families to stay there while they're undergoing treatment at some of the great hospitals in the city of Philadelphia is so important. That, along with what else are people fundraising for? Walk people through just everything that Headstrong does to help support people that may not be able to go through some of these treatments if not for the help of Headstrong.
Yeah, I think, the mission statement is to improve the quality of life for patients and their families. And that certainly can come both as a form of financial aid, but also just emotional support and guidance. There's so many people and families that are experiencing this for the first time, and dealing with it head on, and they can reach out to Headstrong for support, like I said, whether it's financially or emotionally. And so I think people are seeing that. I think that the longer we've been doing this, the more, unfortunately, the cancer has come closer to teams. I said we're working with Keys at Lindenwood now, and there's every year we're working with different kids at different teams. And so you don't know when it's going to come super close to home for you. Unfortunately, it doesn't. But the reality is, the longer we've been doing this, the more that it's coming to touch everybody in some way, shape, or form. And so it's just been really great. The community continues to have fun doing this, growing these mustaches, putting a smile on your face. It's a nod to Nick Hallori, Headstrong's founder, who was growing a mustache in his last couple months of his life to really shift the conversation and change the narrative of what was going on with him. And so a nod towards Nick. We officially start Lax Madness on October 19th, which is Nick's birthday. We are we're growing at an incredible rate right now. We've already got over 140 teams signed up. We've already raised nearly $150,000. We've got over 1,500 growers signed up, or actually, 2,500 growers signed up so far. Like, we had about 1,000 join in the day last week. So it is picking up steam. There is always open registration for this. You can sign up at any time, lax-madness.com, and register your team. Join as an alum to a team, create a team for your work, sign up as an individual. There's a number of different ways you can do it. The process takes all of about 60 seconds to sign up. And then from there, you're sharing your pic, sharing your profile, and asking for support from your friends and family, and helping raise some money for a great cause and great organization.
You mentioned the player at Lindenwood that you're helping to support, and I have to think, whether it's yourself who hears from people, or obviously Pat Cololori with Headstrong, how cool is it to be associated with Headstrong and have people, especially in the lacrosse community, when somebody has some issue with cancer and somebody's diagnosed, I feel like one of the first calls is to somebody with the Headstrong Foundation. How cool is it to have created that within the lacrosse community, or for you have been a part of this?
Yeah, I think it's great to just be part of it. I think that's one of the great things with Lax Stash is that everyone's a part of it, right? You grow a mustache and you're a part of Headstrong too, and you're helping support these people, whether it's Keys or anyone staying at Nick's house. And so I think that, one of the things that I just find so great with Headstrong, it's tangible, it's real. You see who you're helping and the people that you're helping. It's real people that you're affecting, and it's a family that's been through it themselves. And so I think that's what makes it so effective and just so powerful, is you're helping somebody, and you can see those faces and the families that you're helping. And like I said, I think what's really cool, the longer you've been a part of this, the more you see you're helping. And that's, I say cool in a relative term, right? I mean, you're helping a lot of people, and you wish that the help didn't need to be there, but the reality is it does. And so by growing this mustache and being able to have some fun, by continuing to do it year after year, it just continues to help all these different families and these different communities, and both within inside lacrosse and outside, of course, as well.
I was doing some looking on social media. I noticed there's a push for some MCLA teams to get more involved here, Lax Stash. There's a lot of MCLA teams joining the fray. What's the push there?
Yeah, I think, look, we know the college market is definitely our demographic. And so we've had Varsity Lacrosse doing a great job pushing on social. MCLA teams are joining. And I think that, one of the great things and one of the fun things we do with Lax Madness, as soon as November hits, we have a bracket tournament, starting that second week in November. And a bracket tournament, meaning we take all those teams. I mentioned we have about 150 signed up now. We're hoping that continues to get well over 200. But all those teams can start playing each other. We square them up head to head in a competition. So you could have an MCLA team playing against Division I Maryland national champion, in a format that is just really unique that you're not going to get on the game field, but that you certainly can get in this competitive way here. And so, we're encouraging all teams to sign up. Like I said, whether you're an alum, so you can still sign up for your current team, whether you want to start an alumni team, a work team, get your college team signed on, whether it's D1 or club or whatever it may be. Join the cause. It's all going to a great foundation in Headstrong. We're helping real people like Keese and everyone at Nick's house and continuing to help throughout the year. And it's a ton of fun. It's meant to be. And we really hope everyone can continue to support and join the madness.
What's the goal? I'm sure it keeps getting loftier and loftier. Do you guys have a goal set for this year?
It feels like every year we just keep going. Can we beat what we did last year? It is incredible for me to think that realistically, I don't know what's realistic or not. I thought that 600 was outrageous. The fact that $1 million is on our radar now for where we want to strive and get to is incredible. Now, whether that's this year or the fact that we can even contemplate saying that is something else. So I know that we certainly want to surpass last year's fundraising total, which would be above 600,000. If we could get to $750,000, unbelievable. But I think $1 million is going to start being that threshold for us where we really want to get there. It took us a long time to get to $1 million in cumulative growth, and now to think about doing that in 1 year is truly something special. So we'll see what we as a lacrosse community can do this year.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, love what you created. 14 years ago in helping co-found this Lax Madness campaign. For anybody who hasn't seen Nick's house, the place is incredible and it's doing so much good. I had a chance to visit there a handful of years ago, and it changed my perception and really focused in on everything that Headstrong is doing. I mean, it's more than the lime green laces and everything. They are making so many changes in people's lives. It's so cool to see. And a lot of this money has been thanks to what you helped create here with Lax Madness. So keep up the good work, man. Thank you so much for the time, and good luck as we kick off another year of Lax Madness.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Sign up today, lax-madness.com, and let's get growing.
As I just mentioned there at the end of the interview with Ken Claussen, had a chance to go to Nick's house a couple of years ago outside Philadelphia. And you walk in that place and you see the families that are staying there as loved ones undergo different treatments at the different hospitals there in Philadelphia. And you immediately realize what all the money raised from Lax Madness and all the different fundraisers that Headstrong does throughout the year. You immediately realize what that money's going toward, and you immediately realize how important it is, because the place is beautiful. It's the type of place that, if God forbid you need help, or you and your family need help as somebody who you love is undergoing treatment, it's the type of place where you could go and feel comfortable and safe in a terrible time in your family's lives. So it's amazing what the Headstrong Foundation continues to do for cancer patients around the country that will come to Philadelphia and use that facility as they have loved ones going through treatment. So amazing what they continue to do. If you want to start a team, lax-madness.com, get involved, start growing those mustaches. Should be another amazing month as we watch the Headstrong Foundation fundraise again. And thanks to Ken Claussen, as always, for taking some time to chat with us and promote Lax Madness once again this year. As for now, that's all the time we have for this week. We'll talk some more fall ball, maybe some recruiting as well as we continue through the fall here next week. But for now, we'll see you.